Well, good evening and welcome to Villa Park for this eagerly awaited clash as the pyrotechnics are going off inside the ground. The Celtic supporters, just over 2,000 of them, on the bottom and the top tier and the left-hand side as we look at the Whitten Lane stand, are in good voice. And it's a sellout for this meeting of the two former European champions. And what an occasion, Chris Sutton.
Yep, really looking forward to this, Ian. Two of my old clubs, and both clubs, of course, have had a good Champions League up until now. Celtic getting into the playoffs, a big deal. Just feel for Aston Villa. This is a bigger night for them because they have a great chance of finishing in the top 8. That means less games in February for them. So, yeah, I think you'd make Villa favourites, and especially when you look at the players that Celtic are missing, the key players that Celtic are missing from their lineup.
Well, we've got fireworks, we've got pyrotechnics, and we've got a huge tifo in the Holt End with Ozzy Osbourne up the Villa. And now there's going to be a mosaic display as well. They're going all out for this first ever meeting, competitive meeting between the two teams, Chris.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And of course, two former Champions League winners, well, the old European Cup. So both clubs with a great history going toe-to-toe this evening.
Well, the two teams take to the field with the Champions League anthem in the backdrop. And yeah, Celtic still mathematically have a chance, but as you've been saying on 5 Live, all the pressure is on Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think so. For Celtic, it was important they got the job done against young boys, the whipping boys of the competition. A narrow 1-0 victory. That meant that Celtic were into the playoffs, but Aston Villa just slipped up at Monaco. They had a pretty good Champions League campaign, well, a very good one, but that slip against Monaco means that tonight they have work to do and they need all 3 points, and then fingers crossed for them there'll be a slip up from one of the teams above them.
Well, just the one change that Aston Villa have made. It's Bogard coming in for Mings, so Martinez is in goal, Cash, Konsa, Bogard and Digne, Ramsey, Tielemans, Camara, Bailey, Watkins and Rodgers. And as for Celtic, 3 changes. Ida replacing Furuhashi, who's been sold, Scales for the injured Carter Vickers, and then Yang coming in for the suspended Maeda. So Schmeichel is in goal, a back 4 of Johnston, Trusty, Scales and Taylor, Engels, McGregor, Hatate, Kuhn and Yang, with Ida leading the line. But in many ways, Celtic have achieved the hard work by reaching what was always the barometer for European success and progressing.
Yeah, I mean, Celtic's recent record in the Champions League has been pretty wretched, so to actually get through to the playoffs, that's a big deal. I always felt this season that's where Celtic would be judged in terms of their Champions League progression, and they've had a pretty good campaign so far. I think they're going to look forward to tonight. In some respects, the Scotland-England thing, Ian, that adds a little bit of an extra edge as well.
Well, they have met 9 times in friendlies or testimonials, but the last of those was actually back in 1986. And I'm sure that they would have sold officially many more than the 2,100 for that allocation on that far side as the two teams pose for their respective team photos. And you've got Celtic in their change strip, the all green, and Aston Villa in their customary colours, the claret and sky blue shirts and white shorts. But of course it's been an unsettling build-up with all the talk about Duran and Watkins. They're not going to sell both of them.
No, I mean that's absolutely not going to happen. If you're a Villa supporter, you don't want either to be sold. It's a club who, under Unai Emery, you felt has always been moving in the right direction. They've been progressing. Of course, Champions League this season, and they found it a little bit difficult. I think they've been stretched, the squad has, on both fronts, so they won't want to lose any player, let alone the quality of either Watkins or Duran.
Well, it is one of the venues in English football, and it is in full voice with a Holt End, the 2-tiered Holt End away towards our right. And the travelling supporters who beating the drum and waving the green and white scarves over on the far side. The man in the middle is Clément Turpin, who is from France. He's standing out with his luminous orange referee's shirt. There is the Celtic huddle on the edge of the centre circle as we're about to get underway. And for Aston Villa, the permutation, well, the simple one, there are a number of them to actually tell you about, but the most easy one to remember is victory for Villa and Atalanta failed to win at Barcelona. That's the easiest scenario, and that would mean that Aston Villa, who start the evening in 9th place, would achieve the last 16 without the need going for the playoffs. Celtic, gone through the two teams, are playing from left to right as we look. So they're attacking the Holt end as Aston Villa are attacking the north stand, and they will look for a similarly quick start as they made against West Ham here at the weekend, as Trusty goes back towards Kasper Schmeichel, who has never kept a clean sheet in his 7 visits to Villa Park. He's had mixed fortunes in his career, 2 wins, 2 draws and 3 defeats, but he's never kept a clean sheet here at the ground where, of course, his father, Peter, also used to play. We'll keep you in touch with the goals as they go in elsewhere around the Champions League, but it will be uninterrupted coverage here on Sports Extra of this clash between Celtic, the first British side to win the European Cup back in 1967, and Aston Villa, who followed some 15 years later, and there are many a photo on the walk up to Villa Park to remind you of that famous night for Aston Villa. And indeed, over on the far side there is the commentary that is written down with the final lines, and it is Peter With. Aston Villa, who've missed out on an opportunity to have already sealed their top 8 berth with that defeat at Monaco last week, as the ball is picked up, and this is Bailey inside. Rodgers looking it back towards Bailey. Taylor stops it. Hatate will be there, and he finds Yang up towards Ida. The little flick then towards Hatate goes into a strong challenge. Yang's continued to run, and in fact Kuhn would have been away on this right hand side, but they took the wrong option.
Yeah, and actually lovely little flick from Yang inside to Hatate, and Yang had made a good forward run. Hatate just overweighted the pass there. Good start from Bogard, Lamar Bogard for Aston Villa. Good bit of composure on the ball in the opening minute or so.
Here is Camara, bushy-haired French international. Gets the ball back, does Camara. Digne is to his left-hand side. And then Camara just waits on the halfway line. Unai Emery out on his technical area. Ball played up towards Digne on this left-hand side. Digne infield. Little touch by Ramsey, wants the return ball. Ramsey gets it. Ramsey enters the penalty area, cuts it back to Rodgers, and Aston Villa lead. 2.5 minutes on the clock, and Villa are already 1-0 up against Celtic. It's his first goal in the Champions League.
Yeah, really slick bit of play on the left-hand side. Clever little 1-2. Ramsey to the byline, fizzed the ball across the 6-yard line, and Rodgers was there to knock it in. Really composed finish. What a start for Villa. They needed the victory, have the possibility of qualifying, getting into that top 8, and that is the perfect start. Too easy though for them down that left-hand side. Brendan Rodgers will be unhappy with the defending. Little give and go. And Ramsey, good spot, and Rodgers with the emphatic finish.
And of all the 18 ties that are being played in the Champions League tonight, the Morgan Rodgers goal,
the goal scorer for Aston Villa, number 27,
is the first of the evening. And now all of a sudden the pressure straight away moves elsewhere. Bayer Leverkusen are currently the team who drop out of the top 8. Aston Villa propelled up to 5th in the Champions League table. Aston Villa are doing what they had to do. Watkins finds Rodgers again! Rodgers, after banging his first in the Champions League, is quickly added a second. Watkins with a right-footed dipping effort at Aston Villa. Inside 5 minutes, have blown Celtic away at the start. Villa 2, Celtic 0.
Yeah, I think it takes a deflection, actually, the effort, but too easy. Aston Villa pressurising Celtic, winning the ball back. And then Ollie Watkins plays the ball round the corner into Rodgers, who gets his head up right-hand side of the box, 18 yards, fires a shot, and I think it deflects over Schmeichel. 2-0, what a start for Aston Villa. And you just get the feeling this could be a long, long night for Celtic.
Well, the alarm bells will be ringing for Brendan Rodgers. He always had the upper hand over Unai Emery in the Premier League. He'd won 3 out of 3 when he was the Leicester manager against Emery, when he was either in charge at Arsenal or indeed Villa. However, when Emery with Paris Saint-Germain came up against Rodgers when he was at Celtic, he had 2 convincing wins, 7-1 in France and 5-0 away. But to concede 2 goals early doors, as Celtic will try and reply now. This is Yang, left corner of the area. Ball played back towards Hatate. And any sort of pressure on an Aston Villa point of view now has quickly been dispelled in these opening 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Perfect start. I've got to say, did worry for Celtic. Cameron Carter-Vickers there, best centre-half out. And what a start from Aston Villa's perspective. I know there was very little pressure for Celtic coming into this game, but there's also that bit of pride. They won't want a walloping.
Atletico Madrid are leading in Salzburg by 1-0. Lille are 1-0 up against Feyenoord. Stuttgart 0, Paris Saint-Germain 1 is a latest score as well. Those 2 teams are, well, drawn not good enough. Certainly if Manchester City were to win for either of those, Stuttgart started the day in 24th and Inter lead Monaco by 1-0. But Aston Villa will join Arsenal and Liverpool in the top 8 as they lead by 2-0. Manchester City in that must-win game. Commentary of that is on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Just looking at the Villa lineup, Kamara's actually dropped into a back 4. I wonder whether Bogard might be the other centre-half, but it's Kamara who's dropped in.
Ball cross from the right-hand side, hasn't been dealt with. Watkins to Tielemans, quickly shuffles the ball out towards Digne. And so Bogard is just sitting in front of them.
Yep, I mean, Villa, they're a 4-4-2, but when they're in possession of the ball, it's a 4-2-2-2. Get the width from the fullbacks, and Bogard is just sitting in front with Tielemans in that 2, and then you have Ramsey and Bailey ahead of them, and Watkins and Rodgers up top.
Schmeichel goes long punt downfield. Ida is after it. Konsa comes across. Ida shows his strength, gets the ball there. Cash clearance to Kuhn, who hits a left-footed effort, and it was screwed away from goal. It was always going away from Martinez, who dived to his right. Wasn't a bad effort though. Celtic trail 2-0.
Yeah, it was always going away from goal. Good strength from Adam Ida, just one long ball over the top. Unai Emery will be concerned about the ease in which Adam Ida bullied Misri Konsa there, and he fed a ball across. Yang on his heels and hadn't attacked the ball. Ended up coming out to Nicholas Kuhn and a fizzing effort, but always heading wide.
Bayern Munich are leading Slovan Bratislava by 1-0. Slovan Bratislava, who really are the whipping boys in this competition. Pointless, already out, but for Bayern, who started in 15th, they still do have a chance of maybe creeping into the top 8. They're currently a point outside Lille, who are 1-0 up against Feyenoord. Should that change, that you never know, might benefit the German team. As Johnston, the right back for Celtic. Hatate, McGregor under pressure. Johnston caught by Ramsey. In fact, both are feeling the effects of that challenge. Johnston went to ground. Ramsey's just been hobbling. But 9 minutes played, 2-0 Villa.
Yeah, and they're not giving Celtic any time really to get their heads up and stroke the ball about. Really aggressive start from Aston Villa, pressing Celtic high up the pitch. McGregor's the quarterback for Celtic, and Celtic haven't been able to get him on the ball too much.
Celtic with Yang, the South Korean. Far side, the left, McGregor, Johnston, forward of the centre circle, out to Kuhn on this near side, the right, the German. Had a good season, back towards Scales. Aston Villa supporters in great voice. The atmospheric Villa Park on Sports Extra. Engels comes under pressure from his fellow Belgian Tielemans. Johnston back with Trusty. In many ways it's just a question for Celtic just to try and get a foothold back in the game after those 2 early goals they conceded.
Absolutely, they will not want to be embarrassed, but Villa have that quality, attacking players who can be devastating on their day.
This is Concert just skipping out of the challenge from Yang, carrying the ball to that far right touchline. His forward ball won't reach Ramsey. Bounces off the chest of Scales, the Irish international, back towards Schmeichel, all in green, a different shade of green to that of the Celtic outfield players. As now it's with Trusty to Johnston, and Johnston hits the ball for the run of Ida, but it goes straight through towards Martinez. Martinez will just gather the ball in. He was livid, wasn't he, last week, Unai Emery? He questioned the mentality of the Aston Villa players, but he'll be delighted with the start that his team have made.
Absolutely, and it was actually unlike Unai Emery to do that. Doesn't normally come out and give his players a public bashing, as he did do. And that tells you how angry he was with the performance against Monaco, because he would have felt there's a real missed opportunity, and Villa could have been a little bit like Celtic this evening, coming into tonight's game with no great pressure, but the perfect start for them.
Leverkusen and Atalanta are the 2 teams who have currently dropped out of the top 8 at the expense of Aston Villa and Lille. As Kuhn runs away on this near side, the right, tried to thread it through, cut out well by Camera. Outstretched left leg, diverts the ball behind for a corner kick to Celtic, who trail 2-0 in front of the Holt end.
I tell you what, great pace from Nicholas Kuhn. Just popped the ball past Digne and put the burners on, and tried to find Adam Ida on the edge of the box at the outside of his left boot.
From the corner on this right-hand side, here is Kuhn once again. It's a left-footed cross, and it's Camera again who reacted to it. Scales was making the run in behind him, and he's about 7 yards out from goal, and Camera once again has got to see that ball behind for another corner kick.
He did well, Camera. In that unusual position for him, centre half. Nicholas Kuhn looking a bit of a threat for Celtic on the right-hand side. Camera watchful.
Monaco are down to 10 men as they trail in San Siro, into leading Monaco by a 0-0. Atletico Madrid have got a second goal in Salzburg. That will cement their place for Atletico Madrid. The Celtic have got a corner kick. It's an in-swinger, and it comes off the... I thought there was a foul in there. It was off the head of Bogard, but the referee, the French official, gives a free kick to Aston Villa.
Yeah, I think it's for a foul on Martinez from Greg Taylor, the diminutive Celtic left back, who Greg Taylor, unsurprisingly, ended up on the floor.
Here is Tielemans, collects the ball on the edge of his own penalty area. Back then to Martinez. Martinez with the ball at his feet, running forward. Just comes to a standstill. Hatate approaches him, but Martinez is still not unduly worried, and Camera makes himself available. The 2 central defenders have split. Fullbacks are out wide, and it's back with Martinez again, and all of a sudden Aston Villa leading by 2-0. A lot of the jeopardy never really had time to build, did it, with the 2 goals that they scored?
Well, no, the obvious thing to say, the next goal so important. If Villa get it, it's game over, and if Celtic get it, Villa may just get a little bit nervy, but looking very composed at this moment in time, aren't they, Aston Villa?
Scales wins the aerial duel over Rodgers. That's Chris Sutton, who of course played for both clubs. The ball is back with Rodgers again on a hat-trick as he passes the ball out to Cash forward on that far side, the right. Aston Villa playing from right to left in their claret and sky blue shirts and white shorts. And now Camera can come forward to Digne. With the exception of Concert, every outfield player is in the half away towards our left. Now Feyenoord have just got an equaliser in France. Lille won, Feyenoord won, so Lille drop out of the top 8, and Atalanta are back there, and Bayern Munich just creep up a spot as well. Quickly how it can change. It's like a game of snakes and ladders.
Snakes and ladders. Going back some years there.
Martinez.
Do they still play that, Snakes and Ladders?
Yeah, I'm sure. There'll be an online version.
Yeah.
Ball played forward towards Digne. Not cut out by a tumbling Engels. Tielemans over the halfway line. Picks out the run of Rodgers. He's got Ramsey going ahead of him. Left-hand side of the penalty area. Ramsey with a cutback. It's going to reach Cash. Can Cash convert it? No, he can't. Blocked by Scales, rebounds out of play, and Celtic were all over the place.
Yeah, they're just cutting through Celtic far too easily. Aston Villa. Rodgers again just gets in behind the Celtic midfield. Callum McGregor, and the ball out left, and the cross. Liam Scales actually did well to deflect the cross away, and then Cash marauding forward on that right-hand side with the strike, but blocked again.
It's a throw in front of the travelling support for Celtic. On that far side, the Whitten Lane stand for those of you who know Villa Park. It's a long, high, looping throw, flicked on by Rodgers. Trusty with a header away, only as far as Tielemans, and then back with Camera. Camera chips it. Cash has stayed forward. Ball in field. Bailey looks for the run of Rodgers. Rodgers' movement there, but it's blocked. Hatate tries to release Ida. He'll get there with his pace. Camera and Contra are back. Ida tries to go on the outside of Camera. He does get the cutback, but there is Martinez. And he had to go it alone in many ways.
He did do it. Just at the end he took a heavy touch and tried to feed the ball across, but there wasn't one Celtic player who could keep up and get in the box. Had the legs on Camera there though, Adam Ida.
Now Benfica are leading in Turin. Juventus 0, Benfica 1. And Inter have got a second goal against the 10 men of Monaco. Now from a Benfica point of view, they were one of the teams that I think Manchester City would have been looking to try and reel in. However, that is a surprise in Turin, and Manchester City, they know at least that as long as they win they'll be fine because of their superior goal difference against Bruges. But Benfica are doing what they had to do. They knew a win would get them a place in the playoffs, a draw would leave them a little bit nervous on results elsewhere. Juventus, who started the day in 17th, still had the possibility of featuring in the top 8. Arsenal are still drawing in Spain. Liverpool are goalless at PSV. Manchester City 0, Bruges 0. But Aston Villa here on Sports Extra lead by 2-0. As Camera comes forward, looks for that forward ball. Ramsey, who some 5 years ago, he said yesterday in the press conference he was making his professional debut. Wasn't quite his professional debut, that was a year before against West Bromwich Albion, but 5 years ago he was playing Doncaster Rovers against Tranmere. Well, 5 years ago next week, to be precise, but just goes to show how fortunes can change.
Yeah, absolutely. His career on a real high now, isn't it? You see Celtic just trying to make a few passes and find a rhythm. I think they've been shell-shocked in these opening stages. They've got a problem on that left-hand side with Yang, and Matty Cash likes to get forward and give Aston Villa that outlet. Daizen Maida's a big miss because he works well for Celtic defensively as well as in the final third, but he works back and normally nullifies the opposing right back. But Cash has had the freedom of Villa Park so far tonight.
Borussia Dortmund are leading Shakhtar Donetsk by 1-0. Not enough to take them into the top 8 as it stands. They move to 9th. Stuttgart 0, Paris Saint-Germain 2. So that is an excellent scoreline for Paris Saint-Germain, building on that win against Manchester City last week. And Dinamo Zagreb are leading Milan by 1-0 in the Maksimir Stadium. They need a win and a result to go their way, because they started the day on 26th, but in fact they now move up to 24th to Dinamo Zagreb, and it is Stuttgart who would miss out. Manchester City actually slipped a place, but at least they know what they need to do. But it's Stuttgart in that key game down in the nether regions for qualification for the playoffs who have been affected. Cash. Rogers, right hand side, in ball to Bogard, forward to Ramsey, able to turn outside the centre circle, diagonal ball to Digne, left corner of the area, nice touch with his left foot to bring it under control. Cross closed down by Kuhn. Kuhn will bring the ball away for Celtic. 20 minutes played. Here is Hatate, and it will go out of play, and it'll be a Celtic throw midway through the Villa half. Villa working very, very hard with and without the ball.
Yeah, Hatate there, smothered by 3 Aston Villa players. Celtic need to try and compose themselves and get their passing game going, but Villa just aren't letting them do that.
Johnson, the Canadian international, down the line on this near side, the right. Eder can't keep the ball in play, and it will go out for an Aston Villa throw, which Digne will go all the way back to camera. The significance, of course, for Aston Villa not to play those 2 additional games that the playoffs would automatically bring.
And got to say, against Monaco, against West Ham at the weekend, they're a team who looked a little bit flat, a little bit fatigued. But they've looked as sharp as anything so far this evening. You see Alistair Johnson just make a foul on Ramsey. Chris
Sutton, who 9 appearances you made for Aston Villa.
Yeah,
in 2006, 2007.
Yeah, I think the Villa fans remember me fondly. Ian. 1 goal.
Yeah,
winning goal against Everton. I'm not actually sure whether I got a touch on the ball, but I'll claim it.
Long ball by Martinez, cut out by Trusty. Gets back on his feet. Bailey, though, will try and nip in, helped out by Digne, and then Digne, was he held back? Yes, he was. Referee will give a free kick just up from the byline, left-hand side of the penalty area. Sporting 0, Bologna 1. Now that is a surprise. Bologna are already out, and Sporting needed a win to be sure. They started the day in 23rd place, and they're now they're right on the periphery. They're 24th in the league table. The drama has been created elsewhere and not here.
Yeah, you haven't made a mistake yet. You're on top of it, aren't you, tonight so far?
Tielemans waits to take the free kick for Aston Villa in front of the North Stand, leading by 2-0. Midway through the first half on Sport Extra. Tielemans places the ball down with real care.
Yeah, it's one of those. On the left-hand side, Tielemans a right footer. He's along the 6-yard line, just outside the box. He'll be looking to fire this in on Kasper Schmeichel and hope he gets runners across Schmeichel's eye line.
He's got 2 in the wall, is Schmeichel for Celtic. Tielemans to take it, left-hand side of the penalty area, right-footed, places the ball in, cleared, volleyed back in by Cash, might come towards camera, cleared then on the volley, right-footed by Kuhn, and Digne running back, goes all the way back to Martinez. And Aston Villa are in full control. Martinez, it's a flat ball out towards Bailey on that right-hand side, over his head, and it will go in front of the travelling support and out for a Celtic throw.
Yeah, I suppose from Unai Emery's point of view as well, this is the perfect start, but it's just about maintaining it now. So putting Celtic absolutely to the sword. Adam Ida's got to hold the ball up better there. Here comes Konza stepping in.
The next goal is absolutely crucial, isn't it?
And Celtic just not really connecting from midfield to front.
Mind you, it is worth pointing out that they have lost 3 key players in 3 different areas of the field in terms of Carter Vickers, who's out with an injury, the central defender, Maeda, who's suspended, and obviously Kyogo, who was a class player.
He was, and you know, the best centre forward, big game player, scored some massive goals for Celtic, and just simply a better team with a minute now. There's work to do in the transfer window. no doubt about that.
Ooh, poor ball by Digne. And Hatate's onto it, couldn't take advantage. Hit it right-footed, straight at the keeper Martinez. Celtic couldn't take that opportunity.
Well, that was so sloppy. Unai Emery is furious, quite rightly so. Just an errant back pass from Digne, and Hatate, one-on-one, 18 yards out. He could have taken a touch, taken the ball on. But a really tame effort, and Martinez dives to his right-hand side and clutches the ball. But what an opportunity for Celtic to get back in this.
Nice turn by Watkins, good strength to hold off Kuhn, runs forward. Cash joining the attack on that far side, the right. Here he is, almost level with the penalty area. Right corner of the box, Cash enters the penalty area, then comes out, left-footed cross. It's a deep one, downward header, might fall towards Ramsey, and then it came back, I think, off the post. And it was caught then by Schmeichel, and Villa close to a third.
Celtic get away with one. There's a really tame header at the far post from Trusty. Knocked it down, and Ramsey 12 yards out. Didn't catch it clean, I don't think, and scuffed a shot a little bit, but off the post, and Schmeichel eventually gathers.
That would have been probably the end of any chance of Celtic have of getting back into the game. Celtic, who've qualified beyond the league phase for the first time since the 2012-2013 campaign. And your former teammate Neil Lennon. Here is McGregor.
Yeah, he could moan. Neil. Good player, Neil. Not another Martin O'Neill signing.
Ball played in by Kuhn. Engels makes the run forward. Engels with a cross. Too close to the goalkeeper Martinez. Ida was running in at the far post.
Had some opportunities though, Celtic. Good forward run from Engels, who actually tracking back. Fouls Yuri Tielemans, but good link-up play on Celtic's right. Kuhn into Engels, who got away, and just that final ball has been lacking for Celtic so far this evening.
That's the voice of Chris Sutton here on Sports Extra. 26 minutes played on this chilly evening as Camera, but 2 goals in the opening 5 minutes from Morgan Rogers, has certainly warmed up the Aston Villa support. Here is Ramsey. Too sharp as he skips away from Johnston, plays the ball in towards Digne. Digne coming in field up the left touchline. Rogers on a hat-trick, goes out wide. Bailey enters the penalty area. Bailey doesn't shoot, back towards Ramsey, scuffs at it. Scales clears it away, but only partially. Bogard plays it back out. Aston Villa still knocking at the door. Right corner of the penalty area. Bailey looks for the run of Rogers. He waits, passes the ball back. Bogard, Celtic have got every green shirt back behind the ball. And there's an Aston Villa player who has gone down, and it's going to be Cash, who's gone down off the ball as well, which is always a worry.
It's a massive worry. I said Aston Villa have looked fatigued in recent weeks, and Matty Cash gives them such a good outlet on that right-hand side. That's the last thing Unai Emery needs. He's been prominent this evening, but you're right, he went down. It wasn't a collision, it was totally away from the play and off the ball. Physios are on. And it's one of those where Unai Emery will not want to take any risks.
Liverpool have taken the lead in the Netherlands. PSV 0, Liverpool 1. It's a happy return for Cody Gakpo against his former club from the penalty spot. And Girona are leading Arsenal by 1-0. Girona, who are out of the competition. There was a chance actually of Arsenal maybe getting second place, but they have fallen behind. Arnaud Danjuma, the former Bournemouth player, has got that goal. And in League 2 it's Barrow 0, Doncaster Rovers 1. But it won't really make much difference to Arsenal, who are already not mathematically but realistically assured of a place in the top 8. But Liverpool 8 wins from 8.
And look who stripped to come on. He couldn't wait to get his kit off there, John McGinn.
So that means that Bogard then will go to right back.
It looks that way, yeah.
And McGinn will go into midfield.
I've never seen a player get his kit off so quickly there. John McGinn always dreamt of playing for Celtic. His grandfather Jack was once the Celtic chairman. And there was 2018, a lot of talk about John McGinn signing for Celtic, and they nearly got over the line, and I think it's still a sore one amongst Celtic supporters. because of the job that John McGinn has done for Aston Villa in his, 6+ years. He's been a fantastic player for them.
It was a Steve Bruce signing, wasn't it, for Aston Villa? But McGinn is on.
Super John McGinn.
And Super John McGinn comes on. And a couple of the Celtic supporters, I noticed, were applauding on that far side. I mean, he is a boyhood Celtic fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ironically, it was Brendan Rodgers who was Celtic manager at that particular time, and saw him talking last week. Brendan was very keen on him. Yeah, one that got away.
Milan have dropped out of the top 8 with that falling behind in Croatia. So the top 8 currently reads Liverpool, Barcelona, Inter, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Atalanta and Dortmund. So that Dortmund scoreline might well be good enough for them as they lead Shakhtar Donetsk by 1-0. And as predicted, Bogard goes in at right back, McGinn in the midfield. I bet you his box is full of family and friends who might have mixed allegiances tonight, or will they?
Yeah, well, as far as I know, yeah. And McGinn is so versatile, can play in that sort of holding role in front of the back four, but of course can play in any position across the midfield.
Here is Taylor, caught in possession, no foul, ball runs out of play for a throw that Bogard will take. 14 minutes to go to half-time. Aston Villa still leading by 1-0. Real Madrid are 1-0 up in France. It's Brest 0, Real Madrid 1. Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen are leading Sparta Prague by 1-0. Leverkusen needed a win to be sure of the top 8. Here is Yang. Move breaks down for Celtic, left-hand side of the penalty area, but Unai Emery cuts an unhappy figure.
Just careless once again, Ian, and it's not the first time this evening, and Celtic have had opportunities but just have not been ruthless, whether it's the finish or the final ball. And once again there, Yang and Hatate just not on the same wavelength, and the opportunity missed from Celtic.
So it's Dortmund who drop out of the top 8, and Villa drop to 7th in the live league table. Rodgers tries to hit the ball early, looking for the run of Ramsey, gets there first, got too much pace for Johnston with the ball at his feet, edge of the area, infield to Bailey, man over is Watkins steadies himself and cleared off the line by Johnston. He thought that was going to be his first goal in the Champions League, but the Canadian defender recovered ever so well to keep the scoreline at Aston Villa 2, Celtic 0.
Yeah, Watkins should have buried that though. But Alistair Johnston bullied by Ramsey once again, and the Aston Villa left. Clever play to release Ramsey. And then the ball played out to Watkins. He's a strong challenger on Callum McGregor. Played out to Watkins, who's 10 yards out. Kasper Schmeichel to beat, and he just takes the pace off the ball, lifts it over Schmeichel. But credit to Alistair Johnston for getting back on the line and making the clearance. Just your sense is 2-0. There's going to be more goals, Ian, isn't there? Well,
Celtic are fortunate that Aston Villa aren't out of sight already. They've had a goal line clearance, they've hit the post, in addition to the 2 goals that Rodgers did score inside the opening 5 minutes. As Trusty passes a ball across his own penalty area, Scales is forced out wide on that far side, the left, hits a left-footed ball. Eder will give chase, he's a willing runner, but Conser will get there first.
Yeah, they're just not in sync, Celtic, all over the park. Just not that understanding and connection. Where Villa have been far slicker in the main, other than the odd poor pass.
Martinez comes to a standstill. Yang makes a run towards him, passes it to Camara. Digne into to Ramsey. Challenge comes in from Johnston, tight behind him. Engels now right-hand side of the penalty area, attacking the Holt end. Celtic still trail 2-0. McGregor, the Celtic captain's on the ball. He'll go square. This is Kuhn, who's popped up in a central area. Scales forward to the centre circle. Every Celtic player now is in the Aston Villa half, away towards our right. McGregor, though, still Aston Villa players are buzzing around, showing lots of energy. Scales out towards Taylor. Taylor will back it back towards Scales, and slowly but surely Celtic are being forced back.
Well, down the left-hand side, Celtic have struggled. And it's a real positive play for Celtic has come down the right from Nicholas Kuhn, but that understanding between Taylor and Yang just not quite there.
Here is Johnston. Paris Saint-Germain have got a third goal, so Paris Saint-Germain will be in the playoffs. Ousmane Dembele has got that third goal, and for Stuttgart, they are heading out of European competition as it currently stands. Manchester City, remember, have still got work to do, still being held by Bruges. A draw would be good enough for Bruges. Point would secure their place into the playoffs. Manchester City are heading out of Europe at the moment, and we've got 10 minutes to go to half-time. Commentary of that is on 5 Live. Here is McGregor running forward. Camera. He's been alert in that new role, in that defensive role tonight for Aston Villa. Here is Scales now for Celtic. Taylor, the left back. Down the line it goes. Yang comes inside. Hatate looks to try and return the ball. Worked well. Taylor had continued his run. Taylor with the cross and put in. And Adam Eder has got a goal back for Celtic. Cross from the left-hand side. Well-worked goal in the approach. Not dealt with by the Villa defence. And Adam Eder, right-footed from close range, reduces the arrears. Aston Villa 2, Celtic 1.
I tell you what, Villa, they've had so much control, but I've got to say the move down Celtic's left, nothing's come from Celtic's left-hand side up until then. And it was Yang, ball into midfield, and Taylor just followed on his run and a cross, and Villa don't deal with the near post, and the ball eventually comes through to Adam Eder, who's 6 yards out, and I tell you what, it's a smart finish. Gets his right hip up nice and high and prods the ball into the back of the net. Game on, Ian.
We said the next goal will be all important, and judging by the reaction of people around us in the main stand, there are a number of Celtic supporters who've celebrated that goal, which has caused a bit of an issue for the Villa fans. There's been a green smoke bomb that has been let off over on that far side. It was a well-worked goal, wasn't it, down the left?
Yeah, it's good from Greg Taylor, who hasn't been prominent so far this evening. Played the ball into Yang and popped the ball inside, and then cross came in and Villa dithered in the box. And the ball eventually found its way through to Adam Eder, and now Aston Villa put themselves under a little bit of pressure.
Well, also now, because Barcelona 0, Atalanta 1. Now, the simple scenario for Aston Villa was win and hope that Atalanta failed to win in Spain. But that scoreline there means that scenario is out of the window.
So what's the latest then?
Well, they had to then hope that they win and hope one of Atletico, Milan and Atalanta. But Milan, remember, are losing in Dinamo Zagreb. So Aston Villa are currently now 8th. But should that scoreline change in Croatia, then it would get interesting. And then all of a sudden, if those sides were to win, Aston Villa need to better the Leverkusen score by 2 goals. So there could still be jeopardy here for Aston Villa, who lead now by 2-1. And Hatate with the cross, and Eder on the double. What a fight back by Celtic. Adam Eder right-footed from close range into the roof of the net. It is Aston Villa 2, Celtic 2.
I tell you what, it's a brilliant move from Celtic, and all of a sudden Villa have gone to pieces. Clever play down Celtic's right-hand side, little flick. And then the ball fizzed across the 6-yard line, and Adam Eder, 6 yards out, as free as a bird, hammers the ball into the roof of the net. Celtic level, Villa work to do.
Much work to do for Aston Villa. They were 2-0 up, and Adam Eder, who actually didn't have it was an extremely poor record in his time in the Premier League with Norwich. 1 goal in 29 appearances, has done exactly to Aston Villa what Morgan Rogers did to Celtic, with 2 quick goals in the space of 3 minutes.
Well, who needs Kyogo when you got Adam Eder? A couple of huge goals for him. And what's Villa's response going to be, Ian? I mean, talk about letting it slip. Celtic weren't in this game, and then all of a sudden Villa are the team who look rattled.
And Aston Villa drop to 13th. in the table. Remember, they started at 9th. And Celtic 2-2.
Yeah, and they're coming together there. Alistair Johnston and Jacob Ramsey. Ramsey unhappy about the challenge there and squaring up to Johnston. This is getting fiery.
Well, you have to compliment the Celtic attitude, because Villa could have been out of sight, but they've stayed in the game. We said the next goal, as Celtic fans are being escorted out in the top of the North Stand, high up away towards our left. Interesting approach from the stewards at Old Trafford last week when Manchester United played Rangers. The stewards at Old Trafford decided not to do that in case of making the situation worse, but a number of individuals are being led out of that top tier away towards our left. But 2-2, good game.
It's a good game. I've got to say, Ian, I didn't see that coming. But Villa, I think they've been really suspect defensively all season, haven't they? And that an issue once again for them this evening. Looked like they got a goal in them. The Celtic playing through them, and I mean, the quality of the moves and then the finishes from Adam Eder, first class from Celtic.
Takes his tally to double figures for the season. Celtic supporters jumping up and down over on that far side. Concert and Aston Villa are back at square one. Here is Bailey hopping out of a challenge. McGinn caught late by Scales. Referee might take action here against Scales. Quick to stop play just outside the centre circle. 2-2, 5 Live Sports Extra with some 4 minutes remaining of this first half.
You must see yellow there, Liam Scales. It's a late challenge on John McGinn. John McGinn turning round to the referee and saying, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous, but Liam Scales getting away with that one.
I was going to say that would be the equivalent of daylight robbery from Clement Turpin. Here is Tielemans.
Do you need to explain that a little bit more? Is that
No, I don't.
No.
I'll just move on. Tielemans waits to take the free kick. Right-footed, goes long, direct. Camera gets his head to it. Rodgers tries to react. Konsa was there and cleared away in the far side of the 6-yard box by Eder himself.
Eder, yeah.
Lille now lead Feyenoord by 2-1. Arsenal have got an equaliser from the penalty spot through Jorginho. Girona 1, Arsenal 1, Lille 2, Feyenoord 1. Milan are down to 10 men. Yunus Musa has been sent off, and it is PSV 1, Liverpool 2 now, and Arsenal actually now lead Girona by 2-1. Ethan Nwaneri has got a second goal on this busy night of Champions League action. 3 minutes remaining to go to half-time. But Aston Villa not doing what they wanted to do, and Manchester City are not doing what they needed to do.
Well, Aston Villa simply have lost the rhythm, lost the flow, and a bit of nervousness now inside the stadium. They were absolutely cruising, dictating the game, and they've let it slip.
Sturm Graz lead Leipzig by 1-0, and in fact I notice that the goal for Atalanta from Zappacosta didn't stand. So Barcelona 0, Atalanta 0. That means if Villa go back in front, that scenario would be enough for Aston Villa. So many twists and turns.
What if they don't?
Well, they've got to do their job first of all. And at the minute, Celtic are party poopers. Rodgers stabbed forward by Scales. Tielemans wins the ball back on the halfway line. Rodgers over on that far side, the right, plays it back.
Well, they have done, Aston Villa. They've missed the driving force of Matty Cash in that right back position, haven't they? Gave them such an attacking thrust until he went off.
Here is a camera over the halfway line. Keeps drifting out to this near side, the left. We've got 90 seconds remaining of this first half here on Sports Extra, where it's Aston Villa 2, Celtic 2. Rodgers picks the ball up over the halfway line. McGregor goes towards him. There is a new sense of buoyancy about Celtic. They're snapping into the challenges. That was a good challenge by Engels in the midfield. Celtic have got it back. Tielemans tries to hold off Eder. Johnston steps out of defence. All of a sudden, confidence is growing with these Celtic players.
Yeah, surrounded Morgan Rogers there, didn't they? And eventually got a challenge initially. The amount of Celtic players bouncing off Morgan Rogers. What a player he is.
Borussia Dortmund 2, Shakhtar Donetsk 0. Aston Villa with a renewed sense of urgency come forward. Bogard with not the same fluency down that right-hand side that Chris Sutton was talking about with Cash, as Bogard caught in possession, and McGregor into the second challenge as well. Typically doing what the Celtic captain does on a regular basis, week in, week out, winning the ball in the midfield as Scales hits it long, and Camera will see it back with his head towards Martinez. 2-2.
Yeah, but that's the thing Celtic can do with Adam Eade up top, which they couldn't do with Kyogo Furuhashi. Is they can go direct into him. He can be that reference point or focal point. That one was just slightly overhit from Liam Scales, but if it's not on to play through the midfield.
Listen to this scoreline. Manchester City 0, Bruges 1. Manchester City are going out of Europe. Bruges, a draw would be good enough for them. Manchester City had to win. PSV 2, Liverpool 2 is the latest score in the Netherlands. Would it be embarrassing for Manchester City to go out?
Absolutely would be embarrassing for Manchester City to go. I've got to say, Club Bruges, I've seen them on a couple of occasions. They're a good team, though.
Here is Digne, forward by Camera, left-hand side. Celtic face Bruges. They got a good draw as well at home, 1-1. They've had some notable draws as well away from home. That one against Atalanta in particular stands out. And Dinamo Zagreb in the Maksimir Stadium. That's an intimidating place. In fact, before the Atalanta game, Celtic 1 clean sheet in 39 Champions League games. Then before tonight, 3 clean sheets in the last 5.
Yep. Yeah, the away record for Celtic in the Champions League has been particularly poor, but especially Atalanta was big, because when you think about it, they got absolutely slaughtered by Borussia Dortmund the previous game.
Ida gives chase, gets there as well, did ever so well. Ida, it was a lost cause it seemed on the right hand side, using his strength, helped out by Kuhn. He's been a willing outlet, hasn't he, Adam Ida?
Absolutely, and it's amazing, those goals, the boost that can do for his confidence. And where earlier on in the game he looked a little bit off it, he's a giant now for Celtic up top.
Here is Johnston. Game has become a lot more even as Scales goes all the way back to Kasper Schmeichel. The blonde Dane will hit a right-footed ball out towards that far side into 3 minutes of added on time. Hatate slides into the challenge, commits himself too early. Scales though prevents it reaching Watkins, clears it only as far as Camera in the centre circle. Tielemans, penny for the thoughts of Unai Emery. It looks like a scolding look towards his players as the ball is hit up towards Watkins, left-hand side of the penalty area. Watkins has got to get past 2 Celtic players, Kuhn and Trusty doing well. Sliding out was Engels. It'll go out of play for a Villa throw. Level the area left-hand side, taken quickly by Digne. Tielemans flicks it forward. Trusty should clear with this and does so for Celtic. Here is Camera. Plays it back then to Konsa. McGinn. Camera trotting his way forward over the halfway line. Tielemans hits it with pace into the inside left channel. Rogers is there. Johnston runs off his butt legs behind for a corner kick to Aston Villa. 2-2.
I tell you what a great take from Rogers there. Made the run in between Alistair Johnson and Austin Trusty and took the ball in his stride. Wins the corner. And can Villa work something?
Tielemans to take the corner kick on this near side, the left. Austin McPhee is trying to get some instructions across to Yuri, shouting his Christian name. It's taken short to Digne. Digne with a cross from the left-hand side. And the shot from Konsa, left-footed, slightly behind him, hit wide off target. First half stoppage time here on Sports Extra. 2-2.
A short corner. Digne whipped it in well. We've got to tell you, as Unai Emery trudges off down the touchline, Konsa's got to hit the target there. Only 8 yards out, and with his left foot a couple of yards wide of Kasper Schmeichel's right-hand post. What a half!
What a half, and Unai Emery was already down the tunnel by the time that Clement Turpin had blown his half-time whistle. It's the Celtic supporters who are celebrating with real joy over on that far side, because they'd fallen 2-0 down inside 5 minutes from those 2 goals from Morgan Rogers. But Adam Ida with 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes, and they go back in at half-time level at 2-2.
Amazing first half. It was 2-0, Ian, going on 3-4, whatever. It looked like that Aston Villa would win this game at a canter and get the job done, but Celtic all of a sudden, after Ida's first goal, Welbeck moved down the left-hand side. Villa fell to pieces. Celtic got the second one and finished the first half strongly. What we can expect in the second half is plenty more goals, I think.
Certainly we can, and Aston Villa have to get the win, otherwise they will be in the playoffs. And the draw is on Friday. So here at Villa Park, it's Aston Villa 2, Celtic 2. We'll be back in time for second half commentary. But what we're going to do now is we're going to rejoin 5 Live. We'll get all the reaction, what's happened at the Etihad, and then we'll be back for the second half here on Sports Extra.
It screamed past Kasper Schmeichel in the Celtic goal, and Villa really were cruising, had chances for 3-0, lost concentration, the 2 Adam Ida goals, and Villa Park is a quiet place. They have work to do. They will still fancy their chances, but as scores as they are, Villa heading into the playoffs. Villa 2, Celtic 2.
Said there would be late goals, and not all the half-time whistles have gone. There's another one in Eindhoven, Conor McNamara.
Incredible. PSV 3, Liverpool 2. Pepe with the goal. 5 goals in this bonkers first half. PSV 3, Liverpool 2. VAR still looking, though.
OK, Liverpool is still, VAR still looking whether that PSV goal stands. Liverpool would still be winning this. They'd still finish first because Barcelona are being held by Atalanta. John Bennett, I think you're keeping an eye on the games that are affecting Aston Villa and whether they will get into the top 8 or not.
Yeah, there's a few scores not going their way. There's one going their way. Let's start with the ones that are not going their way. Inter 2-0 up against Monaco, so their place in the top 8 looking secure. Atletico Madrid 3-0 up against Red Bull Salzburg. 2 goals from Antoine Griezmann. Again, their place in the top 8 looking secure. They're 5th at the moment. Bayer Leverkusen 1-0 up against Sparta Prague. Florian Wirtz with the goal, so they're in 6th place. But the scoreline going for Aston Villa is Dinamo Zagreb 1, AC Milan 0. Baturina with the goal, and AC Milan down to 10 men as well. So AC Milan started in the top 8, they're down to 12th. That's great news for Aston Villa. But the surprise mark in the top 8, I'm sure you've seen this, Lille suddenly are there. So they had to win and hope that 3 teams, 9th or above them, drew or lost, and they're doing their job. They're 2-1 up in their game against Feyenoord, and at the moment Lille are in the top 8, but if Aston Villa take the lead in their game, their goal difference is better than Lille, and they would go above Lille into the top 8.
Well, one of the reasons why it can't escape my notice is the fact that we've got 18 monitors, so all games are on in the Match of the Day office. The second reason why you can't escape what they're doing is because of a very excitable Frenchman alongside me in Julien Laurent. Let's deal with Lille against Feyenoord first then.
Yeah, great result so far. It's only half-time, obviously, but a Lille team that has rotated quite massively as well for this game. No Jonathan David, for example. They without their captain, who's suspended, Benjamin André. So it's not even Lille's strongest 11, and yet they are controlling this first half pretty well against Feyenoord, who've lost their striker Santi Jimenez, who had to come off in their first half injured. But for Lille, it will be again the end of this incredible league phase where they beat Atletico Madrid, they beat Real Madrid, they drew with Juventus. They were outstanding really all along, and that would just put the final touch really to almost a perfect league phase. And
as you're sitting here next to me, let's do Paris Saint-Germain, who've come a bit late to this Champions League party, but after the impressive comeback last week against Manchester City, they have demolished Stuttgart in that first half. Super impressive. And you sat next to me here in the green room at the Match of the Day, next to Match of the Studio, so I know you've watched it too with me. And well, it's impossible not to, because that's the only game you're looking at. You've said to me there's other games. I know, but obviously this one, outstanding first half. That front three of Doué, Dembélé and Barcolas tore apart the Stuttgart defence. Donnarumma made a really good save at a key moment when it was just 1-0 up, and after that on the counter PSG went and scored the second one. But really,
they continued what they showed in that second half against City last week.
They are 16th at the moment, our Paris Saint-Germain. Club Bruges in 15th because they lead at the Etihad by a goal to nil. Let me give you what the top 8 is. As things stand, remember the top 8 goes straight through to the last 16. So Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter, Atletico, Bayer Leverkusen, Lille and Atalanta. Then, as we drop into 9 to 24, I will do that shortly. Arsenal do have a chance of top 2, and they've fought their way back in Spain against Girona. John Southall.
They have Girona 1, Arsenal 2. Bizarre opening goal for Girona. Not sure what Neto was thinking on his Arsenal debut. Inexplicably raced out of his area to the on-rushing Dan Juma, who slotted it past him. Neto tried to save it at full stretch. If he'd touched it, he'd have been sent off. Jorginho with the equaliser from the penalty spot. Then 3 minutes before half-time, 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri into the D, curled it into the bottom left-hand corner. What a moment for him. His first Champions League goal. Trossard also hit the bar, but at half-time, Girona 1, Arsenal 2, and as you said, Arsenal sitting pretty in third at the moment and could still finish second depending on Barcelona.
Yeah, Barcelona, who are currently drawing with Atalanta, and they may be a little bit fortunate, John Akers.
Yeah, because Atalanta have had a goal ruled out for offside by the VAR. Michael Oliver making the shout on that one, or giving the decision on that one. He's the on-field referee. It was tight as to whether it came off a Barcelona defender or an Atalanta player for the offside. They looked at it for quite a long time, but 0-0 as it stands. Not a classic. 3 attempts on goal for each team. Atalanta have had the better chances, but Barcelona currently second then on 19 points, and Atalanta clinging on to 8th. It's Barcelona 0, Atalanta 0.
Half-time whistle has gone in Eindhoven. PSV 3, Liverpool 2 at the break. Brest Real Madrid next. Julia Bolt.
Yes, it is Brest 0, Real Madrid 1. The only goal in it so far, Rodrigo's low shot into the corner, and the post helped ping it into the back of the net. And since then, you would say they've started to go up the gears, but both sides have had 2 shots on target each so far. As it stands then, Real Madrid up to 11th, Brest down to 21st, and we kicked off late on this one because the pitch completely filled up with smoke thanks to the amount of flares being set off from the visiting fans. But we're now at the break. It's Brest 0, Real Madrid 1. John has given you most of the scores, but other half-times, the ones I don't think he has given you. Borussia Dortmund lead Shakhtar Donetsk by 2 goals to 0. Bayern are a goal up on Slovan Bratislava. It's Juventus 0, Benfica 1. Sturm Graz 1, Leipzig 0, Sporting 0, Bologna 1, and Young Boys 0, Red Star 0. I've given you the top 8. Let me just give you 9 to 24. So Borussia Dortmund would be in 9th, Bayern 10th, Real Madrid in 11th, Milan would finish 12th as things stand, Villa 13th, PSV 14th, Bruges 15th and Paris Saint-Germain 16th. Then you've got Benfica, Feyenoord and Monaco. Celtic are in 20th as things stand. Brest in 21st. Juventus 22nd. Dinamo Zagreb 23rd. And Sporting 24th. So those teams that are on the cusp, Stuttgart, Manchester City, they are the ones who would still have a chance of trying to make it in. Then you have Bologna, Shakhtar, Sturm Graz, Red Star, Sparta Prague, Leipzig, Girona, Red Bull Salzburg, Young Boys, who currently would be getting their first point of the evening, and Slovan Bratislava would be the only team at the end of the mammoth group stage who would have played 8 and lost 8. There have been 33 goals in the first half of the final night of the Champions League group stage tonight. I think there's probably more to come. 2 minutes to 9, John Barnes has your news.
The voice of the UK. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Mark. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has told the BBC she wants to see spades in the ground during this Parliament on the infrastructure project she announced in a speech this morning. She backed a 3rd runway at Heathrow, a major redevelopment of Old Trafford and a new rail line linking Oxford and Cambridge. A group of senior church leaders in Liverpool have said the position of the city's bishop is currently untenable. They've written to the Archbishop of York calling for a full investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct against John Perenbalath. The Bishop of Liverpool has been accused of sexual harassment and assault, which he denies. President Trump has said he's ordered the Defense Department to prepare a facility at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba to house illegal migrants. Earlier, the White House said the freeze on hundreds of billions of dollars of federal grants and loans remains in full force, dispelling early reports the move had been rescinded. And a man and a woman have been charged with aggravated trespass after protesters from Just Stop Oil disrupted a performance at a West End theatre on Monday night. 2 people climbed onto the stage midway through The Tempest, starring Sigourney Weaver.
We're celebrating the reggae icon Bob Marley.
You like music, it's family.
Taking you through his era-defining moments.
There's something about Bob. When he opens his mouth, oh my goodness.
Unearthing rare BBC archive and hearing from his loved ones and fans.
You can't make sense of the magnitude of his songs and how far they've travelled. The world was listening.
Eras Bob Marley. With me, Trevor Nelson. Listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sport.
The Champions League with Mark Chapman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
In our 2 big games this evening, Aston Villa and Celtic are level at 2-2. Villa were 2-0 up after 5 minutes. So if you want to listen to that, then that is on Sports Extra with Ian Dennis and Chris Sutton right now. And
so welcome back. Here we are on Sports Extra at half-time. And if you wish to listen to Manchester City against Bruges with John Murray and Izzy Christiansen, then you'll need to retune to 5 Live. But uninterrupted coverage of this game here at Villa Park, where Aston Villa were 2-0 up through 2 early goals from Morgan Rogers. But an excellent fight back by Celtic, much to your surprise.
Yes, it was. I mean, Villa was so dominant, and then the couple of early goals, you're thinking, well, this is going to be a formality for Aston Villa, and Celtic really weren't in the game. There was a couple of careless passes out at the back from Villa where Celtic had a couple of half chances, didn't take them. Villa hit the post, had other opportunities, and I thought it could be a long night for Celtic. But all of a sudden they work a really nice move down the left-hand side. Cross comes in, Villa don't deal with it. Adamida gets a goal back, and then a bit of panic, I think, is set in from Villa. Celtic got the second moments later, and it just leaves Villa in a hell of a position now. They've got work to do, and Celtic, they can come out second half and enjoy the second half. The one thing which, all these permutations, the one thing I wanted to ask you is, do Celtic want to win this game? Because talk before the draw about if they lost the game, they'd possibly get an easier tie than if they won the game. If you sort of catch my drift, Ian.
Well, I do, because at the minute they're 20th in the table. But I know if you were to finish 15, 16, 17 or 18, you would face one of the top 2 seeds, either Liverpool or Barcelona. So currently sitting where Celtic are in 20th, that if they were to get a win, there's every chance then that they could fall into that bracket.
So how do you approach that?
Well, I think from a professional point of view, Celtic will just want to win.
Of course they.
This is a Celtic team, incidentally, that hasn't won away from home in the Champions League since 2017.
Yeah.
So to come to Aston Villa to get a victory would give their confidence the power of good.
Of course, and well, I mean, you think the money which comes with the win and what have you, but also the England-Scotland thing, it's a big thing. You know, I was part of a couple of games, albeit I'm English, for Celtic against English teams, Liverpool and Blackburn in European competition, and the sort of pressure is on to really compete and win in those games. And Celtic to come back tonight as they have done against Aston Villa, you sense they'll be smelling blood. But I always think with Villa's attacking prowess, Rodgers looked unplayable at times in the first half. Ollie Watkins had a big opportunity, didn't take it. There'll be more opportunities for Villa, but they have to be ruthless in this second half.
Incidentally, only one Scottish side has ever won away in England, either in the European Cup or the Champions League, and that was Celtic at Leeds United, a European Cup semi-final back in 1970. There have been 7 games since, and the English sides have won 5 and drawn 2.
Right, that's just Champions League, though.
It is, yes.
if we went down to the Europa League or the old UEFA Cup, then I think you'll find that Celtic won a fair few.
Yeah, I know. Well, in fact, you scored in the 2-0 win against Blackburn. I'm sure you weren't going to mention it because you don't like to talk about yourself.
No, my old team. I didn't celebrate Blackburn, and then of course
2-0 against Liverpool in the quarters.
Yeah, Alan Thompson with a clever free kick under the wall, and John Hartson with one of the best.
Goal.
Yeah, unbelievable finish. And John was a Liverpool fan, when he was a youngster, so that was a really special moment for him.
Well, Aston Villa players have taken to the field slightly earlier than their Celtic counterparts. Martinez is in goal. A back four of Bogard, Konsa, Camara and Digne. A midfield now of Tielemans, McGinn, Bailey, Ramsey, Rodgers and Watkins. Sky blue, claret and sky blue shirts, white shorts. Celtic coming out now in all green, their change strip. And they line up with Schmeichel in goal. A back four of Johnston, Trusty, Scales and Taylor. Engels, McGregor and Hattati in the midfield. Kuhn, Yang and Ida, who, like Rodgers, is on a hat-trick. Brendan Rodgers not making any changes as he just slowly makes his way down the touchline. The Celtic manager with his black puffer coat, and certainly Unai Emery, who was very swiftly down the tunnel. Let's see if that half-time team talk, bearing in mind that he was irritated and angered and irked, and call it what you will, with the mentality of his players. Annoyed, frustrated, agitated. Last week, those questions of mentality will again come to the fore when they're 2-0 up and had chances to go further ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is one of those 2-0 up precarious scoreline, we know, but what an opportunity, 2-0 up on your home patch and letting it slip. But listen, 45 minutes, you've got a chance, Villa, to make things right from their perspective. But I do think the loss of Matty Cash has had a major impact on them. The fullbacks gives them such good attacking prowess.
The other scenario, they'll remember from an Aston Villa point of view, they've got to win, they've got to do their side of the bargain, but the results are at least going in their favour. That Milan are down to 10 men, they're trailing in Croatia against Dinamo Zagreb, and Atalanta had that goal disallowed, so they are failing to win, and that was all part of the Aston Villa equation. At least one of those had to happen, because the other side of it with Bayer Leverkusen are winning against Sparta Prague, and Atletico Madrid are 3-0 up against Red Bull Salzburg. So you're resting on those two other scorelines from an Aston Villa perspective. But early in the second half, Celtic voices that you can hear here inside Villa Park, 2-2. We'll rejoin 5 Live after this game. We're through till 10:30 to reflect and ruminate over a dramatic night in this league phase. And certainly plenty of twists and turns in those first 45 minutes. But as it currently stands, these two teams will be in the playoffs. Draw on Friday. Aston Villa, ball played forward to Digne. Takes it, they're attacking the Holt end, so in their customary shirts, those traditional colours of Aston Villa. Playing from left to right as we look. Bogard, infield, McGinn.
And nothing changes with both setups. Villa with that 4-2-2-2, really narrow, and they're hoping to get the width from the full-backs. And Celtic, that back four, McGregor will sit in front of the back four and act as that pivot, and then Engels and Hattati, they'll be the two number 8s, Kuhn and Yang in the wide areas, and Adam Ida, what a first half he had as the central striker.
Martinez plays the ball out to Camara. Aston Villa are not playing at the same tempo as they started the game, as Tielemans does well to hold onto the ball. Johnston was tight behind him. Rolled out to this near side, Bogard. Bailey just over the halfway line, quickly closed down by Taylor. Yang helps out. Yang catches Bailey. That'll be a free kick to Aston Villa. Some 15 yards inside the Celtic half on this near side, the right.
Yeah. Do you know what? Bailey hasn't tested Greg Taylor out enough in 1v1 situations. Did well in that instance, but Yang got back and hacked him down, really. Fortunate not to see yellow.
Elsewhere, Manchester City trailing at home. Barcelona are now leading Atalanta by a goal to nil. So all Aston Villa have to do is to get themselves back in front. However, it's Celtic who are coming forward now, and it's with Kuhn to McGregor, back to Trusty, Scales, left of the centre circle. Borussia Dortmund 2, Donetsk 1. Manchester City have equalised, incidentally, in a game that they have to win. It is now 1-1 at the Etihad. Kovacic has got that equaliser. Borussia Dortmund 2, Shakhtar 1. Latest scores in this Champions League night. 5 Live final score is available if you wish the commentary of that game at the Etihad to see the goals as they go in for yourselves. Here is Camera. Steps out of defence in the centre circle for Aston Villa. Holds off Engels. McGinn quickly out towards Bailey. Right-hand side. Rodgers, Watkins, Wade inside the penalty area. Bailey at pace. Right-hand side. Pulls it back. Nobody there.
It's really good from Bailey, other than the final ball. But Greg Taylor. Taylor backed off, retreated inside his box, but couldn't pick the pass. Leon Bailey.
Here is Concert. Unai Emery makes a point of saying to his players, just calm it down, as the crowd were trying to urge Villa on. 2-2.
Yeah, and the way they're actually shaped up, when they're in possession, they're more or less a back three, and Digne and Bailey sort of like wing backs. Bogard hasn't got forward anywhere near enough, so maybe a slight change there from Unai Emery.
Watkins picks up the ball midway through the Celtic half, left-hand side, runs forward, enters the penalty area, slow down, almost slips, still has the ball at his feet, but is forced away. Helped out by Digne. Back it will go to Ramsey, 30 yards out from goal, just in from the left touchline. Tielemans now takes over, he'll go square. McGinn closed down by Hatate. Tielemans plays the ball back out towards Digne on that far left-hand side. Tielemans now. Bogard joins the attack. Bailey wants it to feet, gets it, 25 yards out from goal, touches the ball back towards McGinn. Bogard, edge of the centre circle now with Konsa. Celtic have got everybody back behind the ball. Aston Villa go out wide once again to Camera, playing as a central defender along with Konsa here tonight. Here is Bogard once again on the halfway line, hits the ball over the top towards Bailey. Taylor is back goal side, leans into Bailey. Bailey though keeps his balance well, plays it back edge of the area. McGinn, forward ball, Rodgers with a cutback, and there was Johnston, it was, in a central area to break up the move, but Aston Villa will keep going. Camera, Tielemans slides the ball through, cut out by Johnston. Good defending on 2 occasions.
Yeah, it was. Right place, right time, but I wondered, lovely pass from McGinn to Morgan. Rodgers, angle maybe slightly tight, but why didn't he get a shot off? Only would have been, 8-10 yards out.
You feel though that Brendan Rodgers has improved Johnston, don't you, since he arrived?
Well, certainly in an attacking sense.
Ball up towards Ida, cut out by Konsa.
That right-hand side for Celtic this season, the way that Johnston and Kuhn have linked up, that's been really integral to Celtic's success so far this season. You just sense Villa have felt the way back into this game after Celtic 2 quick goals.
Chris Sutton, former Celtic player, that spell at Aston Villa, but also 10 trophies that he won during that hugely successful time for Celtic, and that era that we were talking about when they won away in England at Blackburn and Liverpool. That was the year that you runners-up in the UEFA Cup.
Jose Mourinho's Porto. And that was when the start of Mourinho really emerging, wasn't it, as a top manager.
Taylor steps out of defence. McGregor, good control. Scales plays it forward. Yang does well to slide and keep the ball in play. Taylor will try and push it down the line. They'll get a throw for Celtic. It was funny, before Celtic had actually scored and the first goal came down the left-hand side, you were talking about that lack of threat down the left. But
yeah, and it's been difficult for Yang this season because he hasn't really had a run of games. Dazen Maeda, of course, suspended. So Taylor has a better understanding with Maeda. It was really well worked, and Yang part of that first goal with the ball inside. Taylor carried on his run.
Brest have equalised at home to Real Madrid. Brest 1, Real Madrid 1. Here is Yang, turns away from Bailey. Short ball, gets it back then from Taylor on this near side, the left. Triangular passing patterns from Celtic. Taylor flicks it down the line. McGregor doesn't quite keep the ball in play. It'll be an Aston Villa throw. In fact, that Brest goal was disallowed. So it remains Brest 0, Real Madrid 1. But Paris Saint-Germain have got a 4th goal. So Stuttgart 0, Paris Saint-Germain 4 is a latest scoreline from Germany. 8 minutes into the second half, it remains 2-2. Milan, down to 10 men, have got an equaliser in the Maximir Stadium. Zagreb 1, Milan 1. Villa have to win if they're to finish in the top 8. Here is Bailey, forward ball to Watkins, can't get there. Trusty kept his balance, showed his strength, clears the ball out of play for a throw.
It was well tracked, really bright from John McGinn initially with the quick free kick. I think Brendan Rodgers was asking the 4th official whether the ball was moving there, and then Bailey with the driving run slid the ball into Watkins inside the box, but Trusty tracked him all the way.
Heavy police presence over on that far left corner, the near side of the north stand to that away section. As Celtic with Engels caught in possession on the edge of the area. Rodgers shoots, left-footed, low, always going wide on a hat-trick, out for a goal kick. 2-2.
Engels just dallied there. And it was Ramsey who ended up getting the challenge in, and the ball fell to Rodgers, but not a really confident finish from a player who has a couple of goals already and has had a brilliant season, hasn't he, Morgan Rodgers? Blimey.
So Milan looking to get back into the top 8 with that equaliser. Dortmund then drop out once again as Johnson slides the ball forward, and Martinez had to get there. You had Yang and Ida both breaking and streaking into the penalty area.
Yeah, there's that link up down the Celtic right though. Johnston and Kuhn, lovely touch, and Johnson just heavy with the pass.
So Milan back in the top 8 with that equaliser despite being down to 10 men. Aston Villa with that Atalanta scoreline in Barcelona, no, a win would take them to avoid the playoffs, but still being held. Manchester City 1-1 at home to Bruges. A night of drama on BBC Radio 5 Live and Sports Extra. Konsa out towards Camera. Camera slows down, infield to Tielemans. Good noise, Villa Park. Bogard.
There's definitely a change in the way that Villa have set up in this second half, and Unai Emery screaming to Bailey to get wide on that right hand side, get your heels on the touchline.
This is Rodgers. Tielemans holds on to it, passes the ball forward. Bailey right hand side of the area, one touch, second touch of his left boot to control it, tries to work over the cross, takes a deflection, volleyed away by McGregor inside the penalty area. Celtic defending deep. Picked up by Konsa, laid off by McGinn. Bogard passes the ball out early towards Bailey, chance to run at Taylor. Yang will double up on him on this near side to Villa right. Still at 2-2 here on Sports Extra. Ball played back, Tielemans in field, Rodgers. This is Ramsey, central area. Couldn't get the ball back from Watkins. Celtic can't hang on to it though.
Yeah, a couple of times now where Celtic have won possession back but cannot get out. Villa just dominating now.
Engels gives away a free kick against Tielemans. The ball is picked up by the Celtic captain McGregor. Not that Aston Villa were looking to try and take a quick one.
Yeah, Belgian teammates, aren't they? Tielemans and Engels.
The scare is over at the Etihad. Manchester City are now leading Bruges by 2-1. That will take them in to the playoffs. Sturm Graz leading Leipzig 2-0 is one of those scorelines where they were both already eliminated. Aston Villa though, well, they've still got their work to do here as we approach the hour mark at 2-2. Attacking the whole 10, Tielemans stands over this free kick. Central position, just over 30 yards out from goal. There's nobody through the middle. You've got 5 Villa players to the right hand side and 3 to his left. Tielemans now chips it into the penalty area. Twisting header away by Trusty. Cleared by the Celtic defence, and Tielemans will volley the ball back to Martinez.
Hard one that, very central the free kick was taken. Normally you see teams try and work a bit of an angle for a cross
Well, that Brest goal didn't stand. Real Madrid have got a second goal through Jude Bellingham. Lille lead Feyenoord 3-1, and that Sturm Graz goal didn't stand either, so they are back at 1-0 at home to RB Leipzig elsewhere in the Champions League. And we've got 32 minutes remaining. Hatate spreads it for Celtic. Kuhn has got to run a long way back to retrieve it, midway through his own half, but he keeps the ball in play at least, and then he passes the ball back, and Trusty, and Schmeichel was actually out of the penalty area on the right hand side, and he clears it long away downfield. He had to get his angles.
Yeah, he's good with the ball at his feet. Kasper Schmeichel, I think he's having a pop at one of his teammates, but elected to go long there under a bit of pressure. He can certainly handle the ball, Kasper Schmeichel.
Here is Martinez, back it goes with the Aston Villa goalkeeper, rolls it out towards Camara, plays it to Digne. Celtic pressing higher at the pitch. Digne comes under pressure. Digne runs into trouble. There's the turnover. Johnston towards Hatate, lays it off towards Johnston. Johnston cross back, cut back, takes a deflection. Yang tried to keep it alive. Camara will run the ball or walk it out of his penalty area towards Rodgers, but Celtic are hunting higher up the pitch than they were, and now here is McGinn, but he won't get the better of Engels with his pace. However, he will have the strength, and he rolls it forward, and here is Ramsey, and Watkins waits. Watkins scores his first goal in the Champions League, and Aston Villa are back in front. Ollie Watkins spurned the chance in the first half, wasn't going to spurn that one. Aston Villa 3, Celtic 2, an hour played.
I tell you what, first of all, Morgan Rodgers deep inside his own half feeds the ball up to John McGinn, who looked like he'd missed out, or lost out I should say, to Arne Engels, who always looked favourite for the ball, but that big backside from John McGinn stuck it into Engels, turned and fed Ramsey, and Ramsey looked like he was one-on-one, but had the composure, the coolness to just feed the ball to Ollie Watkins, 12 yards out, level with Kasper Schmeichel's right-hand post, and he stroked the ball into the back of the net, one end to the other. Villa back in front where they want to be.
Number 11.
Well, both Morgan Rodgers and Ollie Watkins before tonight hadn't scored a goal in the Champions League in 7 appearances. Rodgers has bagged a brace. Watkins has got his first goal in the Champions League. Takes his tally to 11 for the season, and Aston Villa are back in front. Dinamo Zagreb are leading Milan by 2-1, and Aston Villa are back on course for a top 8 finish as they climb to 7th in the table.
It's all about McGinn's strength, wasn't it? Really just backing into Engels and then releasing Ramsey. Ramsey had to stay cool, he did do, and then Watkins did as well.
Celtic, who've drawn their last 3 games in the Champions League against English opposition. In fact, one of those was a 3-3 draw at home to Manchester City. I remember it fondly because at Parkhead that night, Sterling and Tierney had a terrific tussle between them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they drew both games with.
They did.
Manchester City that season, didn't they?
That was 9 years ago. In 2016, 1-1. It was at the Etihad. Vibrant Villa Park. Celtic have got a corner. It's an outswinger from the right-hand side. The goalkeeper's lost it. Comes out towards Trusty, and then he hammers the ball back. He's clubbed that. Kept in play over on the far side. Needed more of a delicate touch from Trusty. As the ball is chipped in by Kuhn, and Aston Villa maybe can break. But Bailey caught in possession by Scales.
Martinez flapped then, didn't he? I thought Trusty was just going to head it in. He didn't do, and he's just flagged offside on the way back there, but it's not over yet. And Villa back where they want to be, but they know they'd have learnt lessons from Celtic coming back in that first half. They're going to have to work hard to win this one.
The voice of Chris Sutton on Sports Extra. 62 minutes played. Watkins keeps the ball in play. Trusty, though, will recover his ground and plays the ball back towards Schmeichel. who passes it forward to McGregor, gives it straight to McGinn. McGinn now to Watkins, takes a deflection, up in the air it goes. Ramsey pulls it back. Rodgers hits it first time right-footed and whistles wide for a goal kick. And Celtic almost gifted Villa a fourth.
And there I was talking Kasper Schmeichel up, telling you, Ian, how good he was with the ball at his feet. And he passes the ball straight to McGinn, who has great composure, feeds it to Watkins. Watkins should have buried it, but Schmeichel narrowed the angle. Watkins 8 yards out, Schmeichel to beat. Schmeichel out quickly, makes a crucial block.
As it is, Aston Villa 3, Celtic 2. Watkins, Trusty cuts it out. Johnston can't roll away from Digne, high up the pitch on that far side. Johnston gets a foot into the challenge though. Picked up now by Engels, passes it to Scales inside the D, along the ground. Yang, he's got Bogard tight behind him. McGinn, good 50-50 challenge between Taylor there, slid in with well-timed challenge. Bailey though towards Watkins. Watkins up against Trusty. Trusty goes to ground. Referee says a penalty. Watkins fouled. Trusty says he got the ball. Clement Turpin, the French referee, right on the spot, and the ball will be on the spot as Aston Villa are now awarded a penalty.
Well, it's really slick from Leon Bailey. Quick off that right-hand touchline, and then the ball through to Ollie Watkins and Trusty. I think he catches Watkins at first. He does win the ball eventually, but Watkins gets his body in, as all good strikers do. And I think the award of the penalty is right, although Trusty does get the ball eventually. He brings Watkins down. I'd be surprised if they overturn this one.
Jerome Brissard is the VAR official. Schmeichel's just having a word at the moment. Clement Turpin has told McGregor to walk away. It's in front of the Holt end. Harry Kane has got Bayern Munich's second goal as they lead Slovan Bratislava by 2-0.
He's just overly keen, Austin Trusty. And Watkins, ball right hand side of the box, drives into the box, and he just fends Trusty off, and Trusty dives in, fouls Watkins. What an opportunity to put this game to bed for Aston Villa.
Young Boys 0, Red Star 1. The penalty is going to stand. Tielemans had the ball in his hand, but he's actually given it to John McGinn. Or is that for John McGinn just to shield it away from Schmeichel? And in fact the ball then goes towards Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins, who has scored from the spot on 2 occasions this season. His record when it comes to penalties in a Villa shirt, 5 from 7. Aston Villa 3, Celtic 2. Ollie Watkins' name is being chanted by the Holt end. 3, 4, 5 step backs up against Kasper Schmeichel. He's already scored 1, has Ollie Watkins. A lot of interest from Arsenal. Villa have rejected that bid. Watkins slips just as he's about to strike it right-footed. It is an awful slip. He miskicks the ball. It loops up in the air, and the ball goes behind for a goal kick. Aston Villa remain 3-2 in front.
He can't believe it, Ollie Watkins. He'll feel that embarrassment. I've done it myself, Ian. But his left foot just gave way as he went to strike the ball right-footed. And then the ball, right foot onto left foot, well over the crossbar. And still hope for Celtic, but what an opportunity for Aston Villa, not taken.
And also, in a night of twists, Atalanta have got an equaliser in Spain. Barcelona 1, Atalanta 1. However, if Atalanta were to score, then that would take them into the top 8. And Aston Villa would be hoping that it remains Dinamo Zagreb 2, AC Milan 1, as we keep an eye on the scores elsewhere that could potentially affect Aston Villa's fate. Aston Villa, remember, have to win. They are leading by 3-2. Inter have got a third goal against Monaco in San Siro. Lautaro Martinez is on the score sheet yet again.
You just wonder, will Villa, and I'm sure they will, they need that fourth, don't they? I suspect they may get nervy, Aston Villa, after that penalty miss. Martinez just taking his time, trying to draw Celtic players onto him.
Martinez waits. Clears right-footed downfield. Long clearance too. Trusty struggling to cope with Watkins, but he does show his strength. And left-footed guides the ball behind for a corner kick. Midway through the second half, Aston Villa 3, Celtic 2.
I always think you've got to be careful trying to bully Ollie Watkins. He's really strong, and Trusty gets too tight at times, and he backs his pace, Austin Trusty. But Watkins, a wily old centre forward, wins the corner.
Just over 20 minutes remaining. Tielemans has gone across towards that far side. Celtic are going to make a change. Bernardo is the player who's going to be coming on. Tielemans has a short option on the left. Chips it in. Comes off a Celtic head. It was Trusty who actually got his head onto it and then fell to the floor, and his outstretched legs, I think, caught McGregor. It's behind for another corner kick. 20 minutes remaining. Villa aren't home and hosed just yet when it comes to the last 8. Palmer and Bernardo. The 2 attacking changes going to be made by Brendan Rodgers.
Yang will be one of them, I suspect. On Engels for Bernardo.
Corner on this near side, the right. Aston Villa playing from left to right. They want to take the short one. Bailey is there, but Celtic are alive to it. And in fact, Ramsey now will run away and leave it for Bailey to take it on this near side. Bernardo and Palmer continue to warm up on the touchline in front of us. In comes the corner kick for Aston Villa. Downward header. Scales can't get there. Konsa kept it alive. Watkins shoots. Very good save by Schmeichel. Low down. Behind it goes for a corner kick.
Yeah, and Scales has hurt himself. Tried to make the block. I thought he should have been stronger. He's hurt himself in the process. And it's a decent strike. I tell you, Schmeichel's made a couple of really important saves in this second half to keep Celtic in touch.
Just under 20 minutes remaining then on Sports Extra. Aston Villa leads Celtic by 3-2. Aston Villa have a corner kick, far side the left, in it goes. Cleared away though by Adamida at that near post, and the ball then is sent away, and Yang might get there before McGinn. McGinn looked like he was going to be beaten, but McGinn did just enough to recover before the South Korean, and they both fell to ground.
I tell you, Yang took a couple of yards out of McGinn there in the foot brace. I tell you, that big backside again. Might
have picked up a knock as well, Yang, as he tries to get his breath back. It was a lung-bursting run, that is for sure. Barcelona are back in front against Atalanta. So any jeopardy that may have been building elsewhere from an Aston Villa point of view has disappeared. Barcelona 2, Atalanta 1 elsewhere. Villa are also going to be making a change. There is activity, and it's going to be Maatsen who's going to be coming on. He started the Champions League final last season, if you recall, for Borussia Dortmund, as Celtic look for an equaliser. 18 minutes remaining. Ball goes back to Schmeichel. If we're unable to bring you any live reaction from the various press conferences tonight, then you'll get it all on the 5 Live Football Daily podcast on the usual feed tomorrow, as the ball is played out towards Kuhn for Celtic in front of the travelling support, right corner of the area, trailing by 3-2. Hatate shoots. Hatate just wide. Worth a dig at goal, right-footed. Martinez was at full stretch. It goes out for a goal kick as Manchester City lead in Bruges now by 3-1.
Oh, some strike, wasn't it, from Rio Hatate, right-footed, well worked down that right-hand side. Alistair Johnson with an underlap. Hatate popped the ball out to Nicholas Kuhn, who fed it back to him, all of 25 yards out. Took a touch with his left foot, ferocious strike with his right foot. Not far wide at all. And there's the 2 Celtic changes. Palmer for Yang and Bernardo for Engels. Straight swaps.
So Palmer hasn't had the same level of opportunity as he had last year in his first season. 10 goals in 36 appearances. But for Lewis Palmer, this is only his 12th appearance of this campaign. Well, Bernardo, who was on loan last year, but that was made permanent in the summer, the former Benfica man, he comes on for Engels in the midfield for Celtic with 17 minutes remaining.
And here comes Maatsen for Villa. Luca Dean. Straight swap there once again. It's interesting, isn't it, Maatsen? You're right, you know, played in the final last season, and I suppose when he joined Villa he thought he'd get far more regular game time than he has done.
Well, as it is, the Dutch defender comes on. That'll be a like-for-like swap with 16 minutes remaining. Aston Villa still leading by 3-2. Tomorrow night is the final night of the league phase of the Europa League. We'll have commentary from Bucharest, FCSB against Manchester United. Then the Six Nations begins on Friday. France, Wales, all the build-up from 7 o'clock on 5 Live Sport. Girona have got a second goal. Christian Stuani has got that goal, the former Middlesbrough man. 2-2 in Catalonia. 3-2 here in Birmingham. It's the ball up towards Ida, and Ida's onto it with his pace. Ida runs forward. Ida crosses the ball. No, he doesn't. He shoots at the near post, and Martinez has to gather it in at the second attempt. In fact, he spilt it. It's gone behind for a corner.
I think he crashes into the post while making the save. I tell you what, though, Adam Ida has to square that. I think Lewis Palmer is in middle of the goal for an easy tap in. Good run, good pace from Ida, getting in between the two Villa centre-halves. He would have been better served to pull that across, and Celtic, I'm pretty sure, it would have been level.
The game is far from secure. That was probably Celtic's best chance in this second half. Corner kick from that far side, the right. And it takes a couple of deflections, first off Maatsen and then off camera, and Martinez dives inside his 6-yard area. A quarter of an hour remains, but it just goes to show that Celtic, with Ida and his pace, I mean, Camera couldn't cope with him.
No, absolutely, and that's an issue, isn't it? Camera, centre midfielder, holding midfielder by trade, being asked to do a job, but been found out on 1 or 2 occasions.
That Girona goal didn't stand, so it's back at Girona 1, Arsenal 2. It's been disallowed. Sporting have equalised at home to Bologna. Sporting 1, Bologna 1 is a latest score elsewhere. So with Manchester City leading Bruges, Sporting realistically had to win. Otherwise, they were depending on results. But it is going to be Zagreb and Stuttgart who are going to miss out. Sporting and Bruges occupy those last 2 places for the playoffs. Here is Rodgers forward. Rodgers finds Watkins. Watkins steadies himself, and Watkins rifles the ball into the side netting. Some Villa fans in this main stand thought that was a goal. As it is, it's still 3-2.
I tell you what, he should have had a hat-trick. Ollie Watkins, brilliant from Rodgers again, unselfish, feeds Watkins left-hand side of the box, who takes a touch. Got to be working Schmeichel, and hits the side netting left-footed.
Here is Bailey on the right-hand side. Bailey comes off the hip of Tielemans to McGinn. We've got 13 minutes remaining here on Sports Extra. 1 goal for Celtic changes everything. And bearing in mind they're not at full strength, how do you feel that Brendan Rodgers will describe his performance?
Just imagine if Celtic had played the first team in, what the score could have been. No, it's that Celtic could have conceded far many more goals, but they have looked.
Well, I know for this, with the human dynamo that is Maeda, there'd have been a different proposition down the left-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carter Vickers, solid, dependable.
Well, the best defender for a number of seasons, Cameron Carter Vickers. Big loss for Brendan Rodgers this evening.
Here is Tielemans back with Camera. Atmosphere all of a sudden falls, probably the quietest it's been all night here inside Villa Park. McGinn in the centre circle. Camera invited to come forward. Maatsen plays the ball back. Aston Villa now just trying to control things and slow the tempo down, are they?
Yep, just trying to keep the ball and draw Celtic out. Nothing silly now, trying to make sure they see the game through, but just not quite sure about them defensively. Aston Villa, it's been the same all season where they do give chances up.
Lille have got a 5th goal. Quite impressed with them actually last week at Anfield. They're leading Feyenoord 5-1. Stuttgart have got a consolation. Bit of heading out of Europe. Stuttgart 1, Paris Saint-Germain 4. Camara keeps the ball in play on that far side, then they lose the ball. Battling for it was McGregor, doesn't go out of play. Maatsen on that far side, the left, will roll it out, and Celtic will get a throw over the halfway line. Celtic in all green, playing from right to left as we look. Atalanta have equalised again. Barcelona 2, Atalanta 2. That still suits Aston Villa. They needed to win, did Atalanta, to be sure of the top 8. As Ida's going to be coming off, and it's going to be a Celtic change, and Daniel Cummings is coming on for his Celtic debut. What a proud moment for the 18-year-old. Come up through the youth academy, Scottish Youth International, gets his first bow in the Chelsea colours here at Villa Park.
Yeah, what a moment for the young man. But Adam Ida, great night for him with a couple of goals, led the line well, really well. Cummins, can he make an impact?
Real Madrid have got a 3rd goal. Brest 0, Real Madrid 3. Taylor, the Celtic left back. Scales inside his own half, back towards Schmeichel. Didn't look comfortable with the ball at his feet. Scales to Hatate, opens it up, edge of the area, trusted to come forward. Early ball out towards Johnston, far side the right, playing from right to left as we look. Juventus 0, Benfica 2 is the latest score in Turin. Now all of a sudden, Bernardo with a cross, blocked on that right-hand side of the penalty area. Ball lifted away by Maatsen, good control as well as he follows it up midway through the Villa half. Infield to Ramsey. Bailey's running forward on this near side the right if they can spread it out towards him. Bogard will go on ahead of Bailey as he's now over the halfway line. Rodgers makes a run through the middle. Rodgers, he's onto it. Rodgers, good save by Schmeichel. A swish of the hand behind him, squats it away. Rodgers was in there for his hat-trick.
I should have gone round Schmeichel. Easier said than done, but Schmeichel had committed as Liam Scales has gone down. Maybe it's a bit of cramp. Brendan Rodgers will be hoping it's not an injury. What a ball though from Bailey. The run of Rodgers. Rodgers, you're right, should have had his hat-trick. Had time there and decided to try and lift it over Schmeichel. And yet another big save from Kasper.
Bayern Munich 3, Slovan Bratislava 0. Lille have rattled in a 6th goal. Lille 6, Feyenoord 1 is a latest score. So whilst there is, I was going to run through the latest scores whilst there is a stoppage in play. But play is back underway and we have some 9 minutes remaining of normal time. The top 8 currently reads Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Lille and Aston Villa. That Milan scoreline should save Aston Villa as it currently stands. But Atalanta, if Atalanta want to get a win, that Lille scoreline, because the nature of the goals that they've scored, would place Aston Villa in peril looking at it, because Lille's goal difference, because they're +5, the swing has been so much, they've actually got a better goal difference than Aston Villa.
Yeah, are you sure about that?
Yes, I am. So an Atalanta goal now, Villa would drop out. All of a sudden, their destiny is no longer in their own hands for Aston Villa. As it currently stands, an Atalanta goal, Villa would not make the top 8. 8 minutes remaining.
All they can concentrate on is making sure they get over the line in this game as Celtic. Another couple of substitutes. Is that lesser spotted?
It is Dane Murray.
Oh, blimey, he's not played for a while for Celtic.
You're right, he hasn't. He's just been recalled from a loan spell at Queen's Park. He played 20 appearances for them in the Championship in the first half of this season. But would you believe his last appearance for Celtic?
Can I have a guess? Midtjylland, Champions League.
top of the class. 2021. Dane Murray, only his third appearance.
I think that was Ange Postecoglou's first Champions League game for Celtic as a qualifier.
Here is Rodgers. Villa have a slender lead, but it's keeping an eye on that Barcelona scoreline. 2-2 with Atalanta at the moment. Nobody would have predicted that Lille would have a goal fest at home to Feyenoord. Konsa plays it back towards Martinez. Now it's with Camara out on that far side. Maatsen. Tielemans almost caught in possession. Snapping away at the heels was McGregor. Bailey beaten to a sliding challenge by Taylor, and they couldn't get the ball to where that gap had been vacated by the left back, and it will go for a Celtic throw, who still aren't finished here with 6 minutes remaining.
Absolutely. So I tell you what, this new format though, you know, people are sort of split, a lot of people are split. It's brilliant, isn't it? You know, we're going to the wire with this at the top and the bottom. If Celtic get a goal, Aston Villa are done anyway, but I suppose what Atalanta as well with that, with possibilities. Villa should have been out of sight in the second half, but Celtic just hanging on in there.
6 minutes remain. It's a slender lead. Aston Villa 3, Celtic 2. But Celtic have got nothing to lose by having a go at this stage. Just trying to see where Celtic are currently lying in the table, 21st, so they will avoid the top seeds as well. The top seeds are 15, 16, 17 and 18. So Liverpool, Barcelona will be looking like Paris Saint-Germain, Benfica, Monaco or Brest. Very much the French connection for the top two seeds there with 5 minutes remaining.
See what you did there.
Here is Camara. There is a lull in the atmosphere as the ball goes back to Martinez. Aston Villa trying to protect their slender lead. The Villa fans turn up the volume inside Villa Park as Martinez will go long up towards Watkins. That missed penalty dealt with by Murray and Taylor, and Schmeichel's ball to Johnston, the right back. Down the line it will go. Ball then played back, and Murray on the edge of the area will pass that ball forward. As Luke McGowan has also come onto the field of play for Celtic.
He's been really good in his little cameos. £1 million signing from Dundee. Always makes a bit of an impact. Hasn't touched the ball yet.
It's Hattati who left the field for McGowan. 5 Live will be joining us for these closing stages here at Villa Park. We've got 4 minutes remaining of normal time. Manchester City leading 3-1. Kuhn comes forward. Kuhn, edge of the area, stopped by Camara. Referee blows his whistle. Kuhn's just caught Camara, and that will be a free kick as it goes out of play. It will be a free kick to Aston Villa. They're in no real hurry to take it. 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes of normal time remaining, but nobody leaving early just at this stage. It's actually finished. Manchester City 3, Bruges 1. That is the result. So in a game that they had to win, they have won. And that's the reason why 5 Live will be joining us very, very soon, as Martinez waits to take this free kick, as we're joined by listeners to Radio 5. Thank you, John. We have 3 minutes remaining of normal time. Aston Villa leads Celtic by 3-2. However, their destiny is no longer in their own hands, because Barcelona 2, Atalanta 2. If Atalanta were to get a late winner in Spain, by the very nature of Lille's goal swing leading Feyenoord 6-1, Aston Villa would drop out of the top 8. That is the scenario that is currently facing Unai Emery's side. Ever since Mario Pasalic scored an equaliser with 11 minutes remaining. There's nothing that Aston Villa can do. They've got to do their side of the bargain and win the game, which they are, 3-2. Although in the second half, Watkins, who put them back in front, has since missed a penalty. Chris Sutton.
Absolutely, they've had opportunities to make the night more comfortable than it is at this moment in time. They've just got to make sure they win the game. Can't worry about Atalanta, and they won't be worrying about that. But Celtic haven't carved too many opportunities out in this second half, haven't really worked Martinez other than on one occasion.
Palmer kept the ball in play. Unai Emery didn't think so. Now it's with McGregor. Is there to be a sting in the tail? Could Celtic, in this first competitive meeting of two former European champions, deny Aston Villa a place in the top 8? Ball hit long over the top, looking to try and get on the end, and that was the teenage debutant Daniel Cummings, but it runs through to Emi Martinez.
Just made his run a little bit too early, I think. He'd have been offside anyway. Daniel Cummings keen to stretch that Aston Villa back line.
Salzburg have got a consolation. Salzburg 1, Atletico Madrid 4. So Manchester City, after that scare, are in the playoffs, beating Bruges by 3-1. Celtic will be there. They knew that, of course, already. It was always highly unlikely that Celtic would gate crash the top 8. Aston Villa are hanging in for a top 8 position at the moment as they attack with Bailey. Bailey comes forward with the cross, goes behind Johnston, who will try and get there, and the ball is ushered out of play, and Villa will want to take that throw quickly over on that far side. Conor McNamara seen a sending off. PSV Liverpool.
PSV still leading Liverpool 3-2, but Amaro Nallo, who's come on for his Liverpool debut, has been sent off. Liverpool set to finish with 10, but still on top, and PSV going through to the playoffs as it stands. PSV 3, Liverpool 2.
And Liverpool will face one of 4 sides: Paris Saint-Germain, Benfica, Monaco or Brest, as it currently stands, as they will be one of the 2 top seeds. Aston Villa keeping the ball at the safe end of the pitch as we find out how much added on time there will be as they lead 3-2, attacking the whole 10. Chris.
Yeah, and Unai Emery, you talked about Aston Villa wanting to take a quick throw, and Unai Emery just telling everybody to calm things down.
In comes the throw. We've got 3 minutes of added on time. Penalty Girona Arsenal.
Girona 1, Arsenal 2. Raheem Sterling is about to take the penalty for Arsenal. It was a blatant handball from Girona. You'll never see a more blatant one in the game. And Raheem Sterling, 1 goal so far this season, none in the Champions League yet for Arsenal, will take the penalty. Yellow cards being given to Declan Rice just on the edge of the area. Referee's taking his time over this. You might want to take it back in as we wait.
Rodgers with the hat-trick seals the victory for Aston Villa, who hope they're bound for the last 16. Watkins drew the goalkeeper, pulled it back, and before tonight Morgan Rodgers hadn't scored a goal in the Champions League. He's now going to score a hat-trick in the Champions League. A dream night for the England international.
Yeah, it's a dreadful mistake from Dane Murray. Under no pressure, just a short back pass to trying to find Kasper Schmeichel. Rodgers picks the ball up, tries to go round Schmeichel. Schmeichel, to his credit, gets a hand to it, and then the ball comes back to Rodgers, who finishes with aplomb. Hat-trick, what a night. He's been unplayable at times. Second half, Villa have been wasteful, missed opportunities. This time, Rodgers makes no mistake, buries it, and they've done their job, Aston Villa, this evening.
Tonight, number 27, Morgan.
They certainly have. 4-2 they now lead. However, the goal difference is exactly the same with Lille, but Lille have scored more goals than Aston Villa, and it would still mean that an Atalanta goal, Villa could still miss out. Back to John.
Raheem Sterling missed it. Girona 1, Arsenal 2. Lopez, the keeper, went to his left and pushed it around the post. Girona 1, Arsenal 2, Arsenal third.
4-2 it is here to Aston Villa against Celtic, as the ball with Maatsen on that far side, the left, just waiting for the video printer to show that it's finished full time. Barcelona and Atalanta still drawing 2-2. Salzburg 1, Atletico Madrid 4. Dortmund have beaten Shakhtar Donetsk by 3-1. Ball played forward over the head of Luis Palma and tied it up towards Martinez, who drives at that first time downfield. Murray, oh, that was an awkward fall in the air as he clattered to the ground in that aerial duel with Watkins. Juventus 0, Benfica 2 is the scoreline from Turin. But here, Aston Villa 4-2 up. Hasn't been as easy as many people would have predicted when they were 2-0 inside 5 minutes.
No, absolutely, and credit Celtic for actually, they were getting a real going over, but they worked their way back into the game at the end of the first half, finished the first half the stronger, and then Villa, to the credit, second half, I think they've done enough. They've missed opportunities, Watkins with the missed penalty, but no, they've done enough to win the game, and that's it.
And there indeed is the full-time whistle. Aston Villa have beaten Celtic by 4-2. Rodgers with 2 early goals inside 5 minutes. However, Eder got his 2 rapid quick-fire goals after 36 and 38 minutes. Watkins put Villa back in front, then missed a penalty, but Rodgers has wrapped it up. However, they are not assured of a place in the top 8 until the full-time whistle sounds in Barcelona, Chris.
No, absolutely, but they've done all they can this evening. It was all about winning to give themselves that opportunity. I think on the night they deserved it. Rodgers unplayable at times, Watkins getting a goal. Second half, they were the dominant team, missed a few opportunities, got over the line. Big 3 points for them, and they'll be hoping that's enough.
Good times have never seemed so good at Villa Park. It's finished Aston Villa 4, Celtic 2.
Aston Villa fans.